The title is CIOs and the PaaSing cloud. And really what we want to make sure is you don't miss that PaaSing cloud on the way through. One of the common themes you've heard all morning is about convergence. Whether it's private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud, the clouds are on their way. And really what I want to do is help you in understanding the positioning between Microsoft and Dell in delivering that private cloud scenario for you in your data centers. As you start to look at how should I embrace hybrid, when and how should I move to platform as a service, or ultimately how do I transition to software as a service? Because there are lots of clouds, and your definition of cloud is probably very different to mine and to somebody else's. So let's try and work through this and have a look at see what these pieces are all about. For many years, many of you have probably been doing virtualization. How many of you have a virtualized data center already? How many people? I can see you. Good. And you're using that V stuff, right? Well, as the alphabet goes A to Z, V comes first, then comes W. So W is the next big piece. And we'll talk about why the W technology can help you in that space. But the challenges that many of you faced probably getting into the first iteration of virtualization is probably around spending so much time and resources getting to that new technology. In many cases, virtualization requires more than just technology and new hardware. It's actually a whole process change. You heard the example of 3 weeks to get a new server implemented physically. I know customers, even in a virtualized data center, that still take 3 weeks to get a virtual server implemented. Why? Because ultimately our processes, our policies, our procedures, the automation has to come together. And that's really where you get to the realization of a private cloud. When you've improved your processes, you've optimized everything that goes on in the data center, then you can say you've reached a private cloud model. So many of these things you've probably already worked through. Lack of skills, management skills, all those things come into play. So that journey has probably already taken you from a traditional data center, you've virtualized it, and now you've put virtual machines in the data center. But that's only part of the whole journey. When we get into cloud, why is it that my virtual machines keep growing? How many have added 10 virtual machines last month? Do you even know how many? Well done, thank you, down the front. The creep of virtual machines, it's so easy now to turn on a new virtual machine that just people keep turning it on and on and on. But the reality is we have to look at, is that the right thing to be doing? Is another virtual machine the right thing? Or should I be thinking about platform as a service, internally, or through hybrid, or through software as a service? What's the right strategy? Because if we keep on turning on more and more virtual machines, I like it, carry on, right? But is that the right thing for your strategy? So think about that. So we've kept moving our virtual machines out, and now in that cloud model, I've got my just-in-time service, I've got self-service, I've got chargeback, I've got all those facilities. And now you can be confident in your data center, you're delivering IT as a service back to the business. So some of the drivers, you've heard about all of the numbers, you've heard all of the analysis earlier this morning already. We can really bring it down to 3 drivers around agility, around focus, and around economics. Does anybody have more money this year than last year to spend on IT? Did power become more expensive? Did real estate become more expensive? How many more data centers can I keep building? So my economics drives me in many respects to look at how do I save money with my budgets. The obstacles come into play. Security, compliance, compatibility. these can't be forgotten. As we heard from Gregory, I think, our first speaker, security needs to be part of your policy. Absolutely. And I like to talk about security from the hardware right through to the cloud, from your data center to the cloud, from the device to the cloud. If your security policies don't cover that complete aspect of where you store the data to how somebody will access it, then your security policy is not complete. So there's a number of areas that you have to look at, whether it's in your private data center or it's connected to a public data center. I can tell you, for example, in the Microsoft data centers that we run globally, we have a 7-tier security model. 7 tiers of security, right down to the fact that there is a very small number of people in the organization that can actually get right inside the container where the servers are placed. Because a lot of our data centers run inside 40-foot containers. So a number of obstacles you have to look at and resolve. Microsoft's been doing cloud computing for many, many, many years. The oldest cloud service that we've delivered across the internet throughout the world is, anybody know? Windows Update. Windows Update is a cloud service that we've pushed across the world for many, many, many years. Ever since you had Windows on a desktop, we've been pushing updates to you. So these are our key data centers or locations that we talk about, and they're not the only ones. But ultimately, our journey into that cloud model has been driven by a few areas and a few key optimization functions that we really had to look at. If you tour one of our data centers, if you're lucky to do that, has anybody been to a Microsoft data center yet around the world? A couple of you have. You'll know that in the new models, we basically buy PCs by containers, pre-assembled containers. And each container, about 40 foot long, has around 2,500 servers, 2,500 compute resources. How long does it take us to turn on one of those containers? How long does it take to spin everything up, light it up? By the way, there's only 3 connections: power, water, and fiber. That's it. Everything just happens over those 3 connections. We can spin it up in about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. That entire container can be ready to run. You probably don't buy servers in the quantities we do, nor have to spin up 2,500 at a time. But our practices, what we've learned over that time in building those data centers, is that in a cloud model, extreme standardization is critical. Extreme standardization. Living by the same standards, managing everything through the same technology, building the image, being able to deploy bare metal. Those will be your considerations. So when you leave here at the end of the week and go back to the office, or even today, think about how long does it really take to buy a server, get it in the data center, get it plugged in, get it lit up, and get it into my management tools. How long does it take you? Because those are the optimization characteristics you have to think about. So extreme standardization means be able to bring in a piece of hardware, plug it into a rack, give it a power and a network connection, and let the network management look after it from there on. The management tools should spin it up and have it available. SLA-driven architecture. Really here we're talking about scaling out of applications. I'll give you another example. In many scenarios, customers start to look at, I need dual power supply, dual networks, dual this, dual that, dual everything else. I need redundancy. As you start to look at scale out, who cares if I lose a node? If I lose a compute resource, it shouldn't matter. My applications should scale out. I should be able to spin up a new instance. So not only should you be thinking about, well, how am I progressing with my hardware and deployments and stuff? I should really now be looking at, well, what's my application change? Do I need another VM? Will the application scale out or does the application have to scale up? As we go forward, scale out is going to be much more efficient for a lot of things that we do. Process maturity. I've talked a little bit about this already. It's how you run the operations. How much is automated? How much is manual? How long does it take to get an IP address? Or do you have a system that takes care of that? As you go back next week, marketing says, I need a new website for this new product we're going to launch for Christmas or a festive holiday. How quickly can you implement the infrastructure, the services, everything that's required to do that? And that comes back to process and maturity. Delegation and control, self-service, management, automation, requests, whatever it might be. And this shouldn't be self-service from the line of business, perhaps, but maybe self-service even from your IT operations teams. Bring automation, bring workflows into how you manage the data center. Whether it's patching, whether it's backups, whether it's migrations, bring all those tools in and drive delegation and control and self-service to the line of business, to the developers, and to your IT management staff. All of those practices allow us to deliver all of our cloud-based services. We've heard about software as a service, applications as a service. How many of you have Hotmail or Live Messenger or Skype? All of those technologies effectively now running out of our data centers globally, 24/7. Anybody plays Xbox Live? It's an online real-time gaming application that runs across our global networks. So all of those things become part of our cloud model. So we talk about cloud optimizing every business. It's your choice between leveraging private and public and how you move to that hybrid model. And ultimately, we start to position some services in the public arena, Azure platform, the platform as a service piece. We deliver software as a service across the top as well. But the key for you have to walk before you can run, is probably understand, how do I deliver private cloud in my data center, in your data centers? All of your technologies that you have deployed today, solutions from Microsoft and other vendors, can be virtualized in-house. There's a secret sauce, especially when you start to consider public cloud. As you look to the public cloud, how will I handle identity? How will I handle the management? What will I use for development tools? As you start to look at Windows 8, new interfaces, maybe it's a virtual desktop implementation you want, new modern interface applications. The common technologies, the secret glue that binds this together is being able to leverage what you already have in-house. Active Directory, Windows Server, maybe System Center. All of those technologies will be common, both from the private as well as connecting out to the public network. And ultimately, you start to bring together a best-of-breed model. So what does an optimized virtualization platform look like? What does it look like? In some cases, we can talk about 40% fewer servers. These are real customer data points. 30-to-1 consolidation was in fact Dell. We can talk about reduced time to deploy servers. Ultimately, you can deploy a virtual server in less than 1 hour. Now, if you've put a human interface in the way that says someone has to approve, then you better make sure they're available. Otherwise, that 1 hour SLA just got longer. As you move that through, ultimately you get to IT infrastructure as a service, IT as a service in your organization. To deliver these new capabilities, we need a rock-solid platform. So we've been working towards what we now call the Cloud OS. The Cloud OS. The Cloud OS allows me to have a foundation. I can't build a foundation on sand. It has to be built on solid rock foundation. The Cloud OS now with the Windows Server allows me to have one consistent platform from what you run on premises in your data center, Windows Server, to connecting with service providers. Maybe you want some outsource model, some public cloud model, some local hoster model, where you can run virtual machines out there. Maybe you want to run virtual machines or services in the Microsoft platform, in the Microsoft cloud. So now you start to get one consistent platform. Move a virtual machine. Your data center is going to have a power out. I need to have these 5 virtual machines running. Live migrate them. Move them out to a service provider. Move them out to the Microsoft cloud for a period of time. No conversion, no migration. Click the button, move, job done. Okay? That's what you need to start to look at. And all of that brings together virtualization, data, development ops, all of those pieces that are critical to you running the business. No prizes for guessing that that's delivered across Windows Server 2012. Windows Server 2012, with its new capabilities from the hypervisor, really delivers that new platform. And what we're seeing is that the hypervisor is not the debate anymore. The hypervisors are not in question. Hypervisors are not the key to delivering a private cloud. What's the key to delivering private cloud? It's automation, it's management, it's optimization within your data center. It's the converged networking technologies. It's the converged services. That's what delivers the private cloud model. So 4 things I want you to remember in terms of the private cloud. As you start to evaluate, do I have a private cloud? Is it implemented in your data center? 4 things. Look at how you manage, support, deliver applications. Look at how you control, manage, and deploy a cross-platform strategy. Look at a foundation for the future, and look at cloud on your terms. So you can run, walk, leap, jump, do whatever you want to whatever part of the cloud stratosphere you want to leverage. It should be your decision. So all about the app is understanding what the application's doing. How many of you have a test and development environment, an application development team that build in-house apps? Very good. And what's critical is probably, I'm going to guess, that those apps stay alive. But how do we do testing? How do we monitor line by line what's happening in the application? How do we know if our SLA for performance is in agreement with the line of business owner? How do I bring all that together? How many tools, how many technologies do you use? And really what you start to look at is this concept of predictable applications. Build the application. In many cases, we're looking at multi-tier applications. We're back to what we built with 3-tier applications. How many years ago? Web app data. I need to see all this. Typically today, you look at these applications by server. Is the server up? Maybe I look at the database. Maybe I look if the database is replicating. But typically, I'm only looking at the servers. And what we've done is to be able to understand the applications is bring this together to look at the application as the top tier. The management tool monitors the application and all of its components underneath. So here's a multi-tier application. Apologies, it's perhaps a little bit hard from the back. I tried to make it as big as possible. All of these pieces are delivered. Now I can see the application's good, but I have one failing device somewhere in the tiers of the application stack. So my management tools can actually go in and go through code, and let me get right to the next slide here, where it's going to be able to understand the issue in a particular line of code. This line of code in my multi-tier stack is delivering slow performance to the web application in accordance with my SLA that my users have requested or paid for. This is delivered in your data center. So, operations management. I need to monitor the application, understand what's going on, where are my trigger points, what are my SLAs, and when it triggers that something's wrong, create a trouble ticket. Alert the developers. Tell the line of business owners. Maybe I have to spin up a new VM because I have to scale out the application. All of those characteristics are part of the predictable applications model. Now you're getting a private cloud. But wait a minute, that should be available in the hybrid cloud model as well. Because you don't want multiple management tools from multiple people to monitor public versus private. So all of this technology should also reach out to wherever you deliver the application in a public cloud model as well. Ultimately, everything's fixed, the application's running, everybody's happy, and maybe nobody in IT had to get out of bed because it happened in the middle of the night. Cross-platform. The key thing here is that cross-platform should not mean rip and replace. We heard earlier that nobody wants to tell you to rip and replace. Anybody that says rip and replace, you should show them the door and head on out. Cross-platform should mean leverage what you've already got, extend it and enhance it and move on with something new that may be better. That's the V to W model. And start to get a heterogeneous environment that you can manage from one place. There's a whole array of key points about why the multi-hypervisor strategy is good. Well, number one, it supports the don't rip and replace. And as you start to look at new workloads, maybe it's virtual desktops. Maybe you're looking at virtual desktops with Windows 8 because you don't have the new hardware necessarily today to run Windows 8. So do it through VDI, through remote desktops. And here's one of those converged slides where the combination between Dell's management technology, Microsoft's System Center technology, brings all of that together as a converged, connected, cross-platform strategy. Multiple hypervisors, it doesn't matter. The key points at the bottom, you can see compute, network, storage, it's almost irrelevant. The hypervisor's not the issue anymore. Manage multiple hypervisors and pick the right one for the right workloads. That's your consideration now. How do I leverage what I already own, especially around the Windows platform, without paying any tax around virtualization? What does it look like? Bring the hypervisors, bring the platforms, bring everything together from a fabric management level. And now I have my application in place. If something's detected as being wrong, you need to watch these little graphs at the bottom because it's a really small animation. If something's wrong, automatically pick up, migrate, move. All of that automation is built in. Report it, drive a trouble ticket, put it on my dashboard, send emails, tell the application owners I've done it, but basically pick it up, move it, get it done, it's finished, on with the job. That's what it means to have a private cloud. If you're doing that manually today, you don't have a private cloud. If you don't have a private cloud, you'll never get to a public cloud because you need to do the same things in the public cloud. So you need those management tools all along the way. Foundation for the future. Absolutely critical that we start to lock in the journey and the evolution for the next 3, 4, 5 years. And as you start to look at Windows 2012 server as that foundation, it's very critical that it delivers what you need, and it does today. Cloud on your terms. This again is the hybrid type of model, bringing pieces together. We've seen this slide over and over in terms of traditional, virtualized, private, and finally right out to the public cloud model. Adopting applications and services when you need them. Do your evaluations. Microsoft's email, our internal email, lives in the cloud. My telecommunications, my voice network, my IM network, my presence network is all in the cloud. I can be connected anywhere. Another key phrase that I like to reference, and many of you are doing this right now. Work is an activity, not a place. How many of you are thinking about what you have to do tonight in email or back on your Windows phone to do some email? Work is an activity, not a place. So you should be able to work anywhere. And again, that whole concept of security comes in. But I have to manage it. So now I manage through the tools that allow me to define clouds. Clouds based on departments, users, subsidiaries, classes of applications. Define the cloud, the networking priorities, the SLAs, all those things come together. And what's key here is that this will ultimately move to look at virtual machines in my private cloud, and then this application monitoring world will allow me to look at what's in my public cloud, all through one pane of glass, one set of management tools. So from the data center, from the hardware, right out to the device, the mobile device, the applications, everything in between. One set of management tools is what you can start to look at to deliver that capability. Convergence, the power of two connected, Dell and Microsoft. What's going to drive your cloud adoption? Virtualize more with the platforms you already know and have. What do you already have in place? What trainings, what skills do you already have? Use what you have. If you own Windows Server, you own the hypervisor. If you own System Center, you own the capabilities to basically do everything I've just talked about. Number two, lower the costs. The combination of the Microsoft licensing and software you own, along with Dell, gives you a lower cost of ownership to bring that all together. Number three, simplified management. You can't think of management in isolation. You can't think of just the virtual machines. You have to look at virtual machines, the physical network, my workstations. Otherwise, you're going to end up with so many disconnected management tools. You'll spend too much time trying to understand all the metrics and dashboards. One consolidated dashboard, one set of management tools. Get more features, again, leveraging the joint partnership, the vStart technology that you just saw. Delivered, configured, ready to go, stacked up, all those services, out-of-the-box scenarios that you understand in technology. And finally, this almost sounds like a Dell presentation, but the value here is that you get it from a single source. One throat to choke, one place to get support, one set of service technologies all coming together under that combined umbrella. So with that, I hope that I've been able to give you an understanding of where we see cloud. PaaS, don't miss it. It's going to come. But you've got some stepping stones to get through along the way. Private cloud, automation, management, the optimization in your data center is what you need to start looking at in order to continue that evolution right out to the public hybrid and the PaaS cloud model. With that, I'll say thank you. I'll be around for the rest of the day. If you have any questions, please feel free to grab me. Enjoy.